A Lee Summit man just awarded $16 million for being sent to prison for a crime he didn't commit is still facing legal trouble.
And now we'll hear from the jurors in his case and more details about the turmoil involved. Chief Investigative Reporter Usher Qureshi has this KCTV5 News special report.
It's been more than 10 years since Ted White Jr. first faced allegations that would change the course of his life. Tonight we talked to Ted White and jurors who served on 2 of his 3 criminal trials.
I think the motivation was money, greed, lust.
After 5 years in prison, Ted White Jr. is a free man today. But his case is a stunning paradigm of how the legal system can be twisted. It is a chronicle of sex, fraud, conspiracy, and redemption. Do you believe that Ted White molested his adopted daughter?
I don't. Absolutely not.
The allegation first surfaced in 1998. White's then-wife, Tina, called Lee Summit police and accused him of molesting her 12-year-old daughter, whom Ted White had adopted.
And the real problem with a child abuse allegation is that they're almost self-proving. They're disturbing to adults. I mean, they kind of make you sick at your stomach.
The first jury believed the allegations, but they never heard the whole story in court.
So we're trying to present our defense, and we don't have all the pieces of the puzzle.
After a trial that lasted only 3 days, Ted White was found guilty on all 13 counts. When you heard the verdict, when you heard the guilty verdict, what went through your mind?
I was despondent. Your whole body goes numb. You can't think, you can't feel. I remember my parents and family crying in the courtroom, and I remember Tina laughing.
But White's despondency soon turned to desperation.
I knew that I didn't do any of these things, and I needed more time to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And so that's when I made a conscious decision that to go to Costa Rica.
He took up work selling real estate until one day a client saw him on America's Most Wanted.
And I was put in, taken to their Costa Rican jail.
It was around this time that White became aware of damning new information that could get him a new trial.
And so I agreed to waive extradition to come back and fight.
That damning information was an illicit sexual relationship between White's now ex-wife Tina and Officer Richard McKinley, the Lee Summit detective assigned to investigate White leading up to his first trial.
So I think the affair is the genesis of this case.
The next step on Sean O'Brien, a UMKC law professor working with the Midwest Innocence Project, got involved in the White case and defended him during his second trial.
In fact, the key issue on the appeal was the fact that the detective was allowed to deny any contact with Tina White under oath.
In fact, court documents show the prosecutor knew about the affair and was complicit in covering it up. The prosecutor said he would cough to signal to Richard when he needed to disclose the affair in response to a question.
There was a cover-up, and it was difficult to determine where did the cover-up of the affair start and where did the manipulation of the evidence in the underlying case begin.
In 2000, Detective McKinley and Tina White were married. And even with evidence emerging of a cover-up, Ted White remained in prison until the appeals process could play itself out.
I've got this rap sheet on me, and I'm living in population in a level 5, and even murderers have children. You know, so you're not safe anywhere that you go with that type of charge against you.
While in prison awaiting a new trial, White was brutally attacked on multiple occasions.
He'd fractured the orbit of his eye and messed him up pretty bad.
The second trial would prove devastating to the defense team and even members of the jury. In total, 11 of the 12 jurors found White not guilty, but one would not budge.
I mean, he admits reasonable doubt, but he won't vote for acquittal.
And he just got back in the jury room and folded his arms and said, "I'm not even going to discuss it with you anymore."
The mistrial meant White would remain in prison awaiting yet a third trial. Some of the jurors were so outraged, they began a movement to free Ted White. Dan Miller was the lead juror on Trial 3.
As the defense brought up their witnesses and brought out their case, things took such a twist that there was, we were beginning to wonder after a while who really should be on trial here.
The defense dissected the allegations one by one, uncovering that Tina White and Officer Richard McKinley had met long before the sexual abuse allegations had ever been made, revealing another possible motive: money. Ted White held a major stake in a company that was about to go public. A provision in the deal spelled out that if White was ever convicted of a felony, all of White's stock would be transferred to Tina. So when their divorce was finalized in 1999, Tina was awarded all of his shares, then valued at approximately $600,000.
Money can motivate anybody. Money can motivate people to do terrible things. And from the person in Tina White that was brought out to us, I do believe that was a big player. Between her personality, the money, the lifestyle she liked to lead, I believe it all played in, yes.
According to court documents, Tina's daughter underwent a physical exam that showed no physical signs of the type of molestation that she claimed had occurred within the prior 3 weeks.
I guess the worst part, and what scares me and for my immediate family, is the power of the word. Is that anybody can say anything about anybody else, and it can be taken as fact, and you can be behind bars before you know it, with no real factual evidence.
Finally, after spending 5 years in prison and enduring 3 bank-busting trials, the final verdict came in.
As to count 12, we, the jury, find the defendant, Theodore White, not guilty.
I just cried. I had to stand there while they read 12 guilties in the first trial. And when they read not guilty 12 times, it felt like that we had undone, that we had righted a wrong that had been done.
But one thing that has not changed is Richard McKinley's employment. To this day, he remains a Lee Summit police officer. In a statement to KCTV5 News, the city says the events involving Officer McKinley and Mr. White were investigated nearly a decade ago when the events took place, and actions were taken at that time. It goes on to say, our residents and employees alike should know and take heart in the fact that we do not base our employment decisions on allegations and private lawsuits, but our own internal reviews. While the city has not expressed regret over what happened to Ted White, early this month, Robert Weeks, a Lee Summit resident, offered up his own apology and some harsh words for the mayor and city council.
Since no one in this government has the courage, conviction, or integrity to apologize to Mr. Ted White for the great injustice done to him by this city, I will. I am sorry, Mr. White. I am appalled by what has happened to you. This is not who we are as a community.
To see the greed and evil in people and how they can destroy someone like that, it's just, and with no consequences.
Earlier this month, Ted White won a civil lawsuit for $16 million against the city of Lee Summit and Richard and Tina McKinley. The McKinleys did not respond to our request for an interview. As for Ted White, he still faces a civil lawsuit filed against him by his adopted daughter. He says enough is enough, and tomorrow afternoon, White and his supporters intend to stage a protest outside the Lee Summit City Hall. Usher Qureshi, KCTV5 News.
And of course, we'll be there for that protest. If you have a tip you'd like our investigative team to check out, just email us at investigate@kctv5.com or call in your tips to the investigative hotline anytime, day or night, 816 or 913-576-7555.